Here's my truth. I'm a women's health coach, and honestly, I don't really love talking about weight loss. I don't really love talking about having the aesthetic portion of the equation be a big topic of conversation, mostly because I have my own level of pain and insecurity around that topic. I know women everywhere can likely relate to that in some way. For so long, we've been talked to and marketed to be smaller, to lose weight. It's just been this constant level of messaging around here's what you need to do to be smaller. Here's what you need to do to shrink yourself. Here's why you need to lose weight. And so many of us have equated success or have equated health with only weight loss. And I'm one of those women that have done that. So if you can relate to that, please know you're not alone. For such a long time in my health and wellness journey, I equated success and I equated health with how my body looked and whether or not I was able to lose weight. And there are days still at almost 42 years old that I get into that headspace. And I feel like if I'm not weighing this specific amount or if I'm not losing weight, then I'm not healthy, then I'm not actually able to reach my wellness goals. So sometimes this topic of weight loss is a little bit of a trigger for me. And I don't always love talking about aesthetic goals. And I think a lot of that comes down to because it's been this battle for me personally for a really long time. And I know so many women that struggle with this same thing, equating health to only weight loss and having weight loss be the main goal of what they're trying to achieve when it comes to their overall wellness. And so here's the thing I want to talk about today, because this is something that we need to talk through. This is something that we need to be open and honest about. It is something that we need to address. And I know weight loss goals are a huge piece of the puzzle for many women, many men too. Losing weight and being at a healthy weight range is something that many people are striving for. And especially in America, that's something that a lot of Americans are specifically striving for in a variety of different ways because of the lifestyle we lead, because of our food system, because of the things that we maybe don't have that are working with us when it comes to our overall wellness. And so let's talk about weight loss. Let's unpack it a little bit. Let's get honest about it. Let's talk about why it maybe feels harder as you age and really why this can be such a trigger for so many people when it comes to our overall wellness. So I'm going to kind of talk through a couple different points. I'm going to talk about why is weight loss seemingly harder to achieve as our health evolves or as we age? How can hormones affect our ability to lose weight or things like weight loss resistance? And then what types of exercise or movement can actually be helpful when it comes to promoting weight loss or actually changing your body composition? I think what often happens specifically in the women's health space is we get really confused by the marketing. So much of what's shared with us inside health is one size fits all. It's meal replacement bars, it's shakes for days, it's just take these injections. It's all of these like quick fix, one size fits all things that at the end of the day have really complicated the process for us. And so we aren't really that trustworthy of the basics because so much of the things that we've been marketed and shared have been confusing and have been putting us into this box related to what wellness really looks like. So when it comes to something like a weight loss goal, most often we go after the quick fix, the one size fits all, the quick meal replacements, and try to hit goals in an unsustainable way. And then when it doesn't stick around or we aren't able to maintain that process or that specific plan, we feel like a failure. And the cycle continues. We get back into that mental headspace of feeling like if I can't lose weight, then for whatever reason I'm broken, I'm not healthy, or whatever narrative you want to fill in the blank with. So many of us have had that experience in our lives. And I want to really shed some light on some of the topics inside of this specific conversation, because this is very real for women. I have conversations every week with women talking about health goals, talking about how they want to take care of their wellness. And almost always it's about, well, I want to lose weight. Well, I'm trying to maintain this healthy weight number. I'm trying to really focus on the number on the scale. And so much of that at the end of the day will not actually serve our longevity health and our hormone health as women. So let's talk about the first point. Why does it maybe seem to be harder to maintain a weight? Or why does it seem to maybe feel like you can't hit your weight loss goals as your health evolves over time or as you grow older, as you age, things like that? Well, there's a couple facets to it that I want to make sure we're spreading light on, because so often what we do And what I've seen a lot of my clients fall into, and I've also had seasons where I've fallen into this, where we say, well, if I want to lose weight, then I just need to eat less and I need to move more. And that's the end of the story. But that's actually unbelievably untrue and will lead us into more hormonal problems, more potential imbalances, and will wreak havoc on things like our metabolism and our inside out wellness overall. So I want to talk about this because so many women experience this shift in your weight, especially as you age over time. And that has been my experience. My weight has felt different to maintain and has felt more challenging as I've grown older. I'm almost 42. I'll be 42 in January. Starting at about 38, I definitely started to feel some pretty significant hormonal health changes. My biggest symptoms started on the mental health side. I felt all kinds of debilitating anxiety, fatigue, mood swings, and really intense mental health symptoms that eventually started to manifest as physical symptoms, to the point where my gut health was really off. Everything I ate made me feel sick. I started to gain weight, gained 15 to 20 pounds. My skin was really dry. I had, just a lot of unexplained symptoms that slowly were cropping up here and there. And what I was once doing for my health in order to be healthy and essentially make myself smaller and lose weight all started to backfire. And so I've been on this uncovering journey now for 4 or 5 years of trying to recalibrate back to the basics and really get educated about what do I need for my long-term wellness? How do I coach women through this? How do we get honest about the things that we've been marketed? And how do we essentially work together to change the narrative? So when you get older, yes, it can be harder to lose weight, but it's not necessarily always about the nutritional side to things. It can be, which we'll talk about, but oftentimes it also is a result of us moving not quite as much. So we become more sedentary in our days. The other big thing is we do have hormonal changes, which can lead to a slower metabolism. We most likely are managing higher levels of stress, which can lead to elevated cortisol, which can also lead to weight loss resistance and things like that. What can happen inside of our lifestyles, because we all lead busy lives, is we're not consistently fueling, which can lead to a blood sugar roller coaster. All of these things play a role in things like weight loss or body composition change. So if we're having added stress that we're not managing well, we're not fueling consistently, so our blood sugar roller coaster is all over the place, and we're essentially not moving as much, becoming more sedentary because we work at home, because we work a desk job, or whatever it is that's starting to crop up more and more in the society we live in, because so much of our work is remote, at home, at a computer. If we're not moving as much, all of those things will start to compound over time and make things like a weight loss goal feel harder. So I'm sharing this because so often in my conversations with women, when we talk about a weight loss goal or we talk about hitting a goal weight, we're talking about nutrition. And don't get me wrong, nutrition is 90% of the equation. We have to be talking about fueling adequately throughout the day, consistently every couple hours, getting adequate protein, getting adequate fiber, watching how much inflammatory foods you're incorporating into your diet, really making sure you're sticking to things that aren't going to cause all kinds of digestive distress or water retention or things like that. And nutrition is huge, but there are absolutely other factors that we have to be thinking about. That's why I'm so passionate about the work I do as a wellness coach, because I want to empower women on their nutritional journey. I want to help them get back to the basics and get rid of all the rules and think about how do we really fuel for energy and optimizing hormones. But then on top of that, if we're also talking about an aesthetic goal, we're thinking about a holistic health picture, which again includes movement, which includes stress management, which includes blood sugar regulation, and potentially diving down the road of other hormone function like thyroid and sex hormones, etc. But at the foundation, there's so much that we can be talking through that includes nutrition and much, much more. So I wanted to talk about this question of why does it maybe feel harder in this more robust way, to help you maybe think about, if you're thinking about wellness right now in the sense of maintaining a goal weight or getting to a specific number on the scale, there are a lot of different factors to assess. Okay. I think it's really important to think through all of these different holistic ideas around hitting a goal weight or around losing weight or hitting aesthetic goals. Now let's talk about number 2, which is hormones, and how do hormones affect losing weight? Now, I'm not a hormone health expert. I am so blessed to work very closely alongside hormone health coaches and practitioners, integrative health practitioners, and people that have been educated on a very deep level around women's health and hormones. And I've been so blessed to learn alongside them and grow my knowledge every single day through working with them. However, I am not a hormone health expert. So this specific piece of the puzzle, I will speak on based on what I know. But at the end of the day, if you feel like your hormones are off, then you need to get directly connected to a knowledgeable practitioner, somebody that can do targeted testing on your body, somebody that can help you understand what are your deficiencies, what are your imbalances, and how can you essentially start to make some changes and adjustments, not only to your lifestyle, but potentially supplementation, etc., in order to help you fill the gaps. That's what I want to preface this by saying. Now, here's the thing to understand about hormones. Our endocrine system is wildly intricately connected. I've said this over and over, and it's something that I continue to learn inside of the sync community that I'm a coach in and feel blessed to be a part of. That essentially means that our insulin, our thyroid, our cortisol, and our sex hormones all intricately connect and affect one another. So estrogen, insulin, cortisol, those things all play a massive role in things like how our body stores fat, our overall appetite, our overall metabolism, and how well it functions. Those imbalances, if they come into play with hormones like that, will absolutely start to make things like a weight loss goal feel more challenging. As I talked about in point one, we have to be thinking about so much more than just our nutrition. We have to be thinking about so much more than just moving more in our day. It's much more than eating less and working out more. That is an old school diet culture mentality message. That's just the truth. There is so much more robust education and knowledge we have to start to get educated about as women if we really want to target not only potential aesthetic goals, but more importantly, our longevity health goals. Things like energy, things like feeling good in your skin because you've worked on your mindset and your mental and emotional well-being. Things like showing up for your life in a way where you feel fulfilled and excited. Things like being around for the long haul for the people that you care about. I will never, ever sit here and discount aesthetic wellness goals. I think that if you have body goals or if you have weight loss goals, or if that's something you want to work towards in your wellness regimen, that is a powerful goal to work towards. Absolutely. The thing I want to educate about is what does it actually take to get to those places? Because it's so much more than just the fitness and nutrition components. The third piece I want to talk about is exercise. And when we think about weight loss and we think about exercise and we think about, what actually works well for the science done on women and women's health and things like that, so much of what we've been taught as women is to go hard, balls to the wall all the time, zone 3, hit, just no rest day after day, and not really having a strategy around how can I tailor this to really meet my physiology in a better way. And that's one thing that I've learned a lot about inside my sync certification, but also as I dive deeper into working with my personal one-to-one clients, I'm seeing this firsthand. We're really able to identify where are the areas where we need to maybe focus on more movement. Where are the areas we need to focus on much more intentional rest? Where are the areas where we need to kind of back off of what you've been implementing and somehow come up with a better marriage of what's really going to serve your energy, your physiology, and what your body truly needs from the inside out? So when it comes to things like weight loss, really truly one of the key things that we can do as females is understand how to work with our female physiology, understand how to align movement in a way that actually maximizes our energy. So everything from strength training to cardio to flexibility, all of those things are crucial for a goal like weight loss. But the thing that's even more crucial is understanding how do you implement those things alongside your unique body? How do you make sure you're maximizing your effort by maximizing your energy and doing certain kinds of workouts during certain moments in your cycle? Those are really powerful pieces of information that can aid towards a goal like body composition change. But until you really have the depth of that knowledge, it's hard to really understand how can you maximize your effort. It really comes down to learning how to track your cycle, but also learning what kind of exercise pairs best based on where your energy is at. And our energy changes every single day of every single month based on where our hormones are at. That's the reality of female physiology. And so that's one other point that I wanted to touch on, because so often women are doing one kind of exercise or following a calendar outside of their own intuition, or aren't really learning how to do movement alongside their cycle. And so because of that, they're working against their physiology. They're potentially burning themselves out, pushing cortisol to the max and not really serving their wellness well. And so this is another piece of the puzzle that I start to empower women to understand, because it has changed the game for me, mostly when it comes to energy and my overall mental health. Do I still have aesthetic goals that I like to work towards? Yes. Do I still have things that I haven't reached that are kind of frustrating? Yes. But at the end of the day, my mood feels stabilized, my energy feels stabilized, my longevity health feels like it's being well cared for, which is the biggest goal I have for my personal health journey. And for the clients that I work with, oftentimes that's what we're talking about most. How are we making sure that we're focusing on things that are going to serve you for the long haul? Not things that serve you today, not things that get you to a weight loss goal in the next 2 weeks, things that will serve your longevity health for the long haul, for your evolving wellness, for your ebbing and flowing hormones, for the transitions you will go through in your life. How will these wellness habits carry with you throughout your longevity wellness journey? And that has been such a gift to empower women with, because it's changed the game for how they think about even something as simple as a weight loss goal. I think the last point I want to kind of talk on, I touched on these 3 points, which again, I will recap. Why is it harder to potentially feel like you can lose weight as you get older? How do hormones affect our ability to lose weight? And what's the best type of exercise if we're working towards something like a weight loss goal? I kind of touched on those 3 points, but here's the last point I want to touch on, and this is mindset. And this is a hard one, and this one's uncomfortable, and this one requires us to ask really hard questions and be reflective and get self-aware. But oftentimes what I feel like my conversations land on in these different situations and conversations that I get into with different women on their stories, oftentimes we come up to this place of having to ask ourselves why this is even still our goal, and what does it actually mean? Like, what would it actually mean if you hit a certain number on a scale? Or what does it actually mean if you maintain a certain weight goal? What does that truly mean? Because when we unpack it, at the end of the day, it doesn't mean or define anything. At the end of the day, it's just an arbitrary number that we've sort of made up based on a lot of factors that probably don't even give us an accurate measure of health. So many times things like a weight loss goal or a weight loss range or a goal weight are based on things like BMI and the body mass index, which could not be more wildly inaccurate when it comes to the true picture of health. Truly, BMI is one of the more outdated ways to really see how healthy you are. Things like waist to hip ratio are a way better indication of your overall metabolic health and how your body is truly functioning. But beyond that, it goes back to symptoms. How are you truly feeling? I can confidently tell you that when I was at my lowest weight, I didn't feel as good as I do. There are things in my life that I still want to work towards, but I can tell you that when I was at my lowest weight, which at one point in my life I thought was my goal weight, I didn't feel as good. I didn't feel as satiated. Like, I always felt a little bit hungry. I didn't have as much energy. I would crash all the time. I felt like I was running on caffeine and sugar. I felt like my stress was out of control. I felt like my mental health was not in a great place. I felt like I was chasing this arbitrary thing of what I thought this picture of health meant. But at the end of the day, I wasn't paying attention to all of the other components to my wellness. That's what I want to empower women to understand. Is having a weight loss goal or a body composition goal something that you should strive for? If you want that, absolutely yes. Because at the end of the day, you should be striving for what you feel like you want in your wellness. But what I want to empower women to understand is that weight loss is so much more than just the nutritional habits that you maybe implement or how you might be working out. There are so many other facets to it. And when we're not paying attention to that, it can wreak havoc on things like our hormone health. Like I talked about, stress management, blood sugar, all of those things, even mental and emotional weight, those things will play a role in how we feel physically, mentally, spiritually, and so much more. And so this is something that I want to continue to normalize and talk about, because so much of the marketing inside of women's health specifically, as I shared at the beginning of this podcast, has been about how do we shrink? How do we hit a goal weight? How do we get to these aesthetic goals? How do we make our body smaller? Rather than really continuing to empower us to understand that we get to define success. We get to define what health looks like for us. We get to decide what do our aesthetic goals need to look like? How do we want to feel? Is energy a goal? Is longevity a goal? Is feeling fulfilled a goal? Whatever the goals are, we need to take the reins and give ourselves permission to define them on our own. Not necessarily adopt a one size fits all or one way things have been marketed, because that's what people have told us is quote unquote healthy. Health is defined based on what feels good to you and what fits for your bio-individual journey and your longevity wellness goals. And I want to make sure that women feel empowered to understand that, because it breaks my heart when we're talking about health and we jump straight into weight loss and straight into goal weights, and we're not talking about the bigger picture, the deeper picture, the longevity health picture, and the hormone health picture. I'll kind of end with one of the things that one of my mentors has shared with me, which is this concept of how so often, like I talked about, women get into this headspace of I just need to eat less and move more. And what we haven't been educated enough about is how that at some point in time starts to wreak havoc on not only our hormone health, but our metabolic health. And it will push us into things like weight loss resistance, really debilitating mental health, metabolism issues, so many concerns. And that hasn't been something we've really been educated about enough. Instead, we've been shown these specific ways to quote unquote be healthy. But now we have to kind of continue to work together to flip the narrative and say, but is this really nurturing my hormone health? Is this nurturing my mental health? Am I going to be able to create this into a sustainable longevity health plan that I can carry with me for the rest of my life? That's what I want to empower women to do, even with things like weight loss goals. I really hope and pray that this episode served you in some way. At the end of the day, I want you to know you are not the only one. You are not alone. So many of us as women have gone through some level of weight loss specific situations, narratives, stories, things we've probably told ourselves about why we're not enough. If we aren't this, or we aren't that, or if we haven't met this goal weight. That's a very real thing for women. And I could say even at 42 years old, I still have moments that comes into my life. And I'm just kind of tired, kind of tired of that. And I'm self-aware enough to know that I don't want this to be a repeat for my daughters. And I know so many women who are also around this age range don't want this to be a repeat for generations and for our daughters. So it's up to us to continue to have these hard conversations and talk about things like, what does health really look like? But even more than that, what does health feel like? Because health does not look the same for everyone. And it should feel good and energizing and exciting and motivating and like something you want to commit to. It shouldn't feel like a chore or daunting or depleting or depriving or things that just aren't serving you. It should not feel that way. Health is an ever-evolving thing that we have to commit to. It's not something that we can outsource. And so because of that, we have to be in this headspace of understanding what's really going to serve me well from the inside out. I'll see you in the next one.